Welcome to the Dog Nerd Show, where we geek out over our best friends. I'm Megan.
And I'm Michael, and this is a show about all things dog.
Hey, everybody. We have got another exciting episode for you today. Today is a very important episode because we are going to talk with the Pet Safety Crusader, also known as Denise Fleck, about some pet safety tips.
Yeah, it was really interesting. We met her at first to go over the Akita, and then we said, hey, we got to get this, and she's an incredible person, you know, with her work with senior dogs.
Yep.
What's her website there? The senior dog website?
So in addition to the pet safety, which is like, it's been her thing for 20 plus years. She's written books, she has classes, she does CE classes. You can find her there at petsafetycrusader.com. Right. And she also is on the board, the president of the Gray Muzzle Foundation, graymuzzle.org. So they help senior dogs, and she's just an amazing woman. You'll remember her from the Akita episode, but just tons of great information. I think I could have talked to her for like a good solid hour.
I agree, and that's kind of where I was going with the with the senior dog. So when you have a senior dog, pet safety is really kind of paramount. There's a lot that goes on just as we get older. There's, we go to the doctor more frequently and things of that nature. We have the aches and pains that we didn't have when we were in our 20s. So, however, if from age birth to they get called home, dogs are, 10, I think she said 9 out of 10 dogs have an emergency at one point.
I think so.
Yeah. So that's I think this is a very important interview.
It is. And, in our situation, it was when they were younger where they got into trouble having terriers. Let's knock on wood that they don't get into any more trouble. But, it can be a small issue or a big emergency. So Denise covers some great topics, and let's dive into it and learn a few things. All right, we are here with Denise and Kiko, and we're going to talk a little bit about pet safety, which is super important and something that I think we all don't think about until we have a moment where we need it. So tell us a little bit about what you do in terms of your business with teaching people about pet safety, and then we'll talk about a few things that we can all learn from.
Happy to. Well, let me just start off by saying that 9 out of 10 dogs are likely to experience an emergency at some point in their lifetime. So knowing what to do when that happens is pretty much a reality that it's going to, and we need to, be ready to respond. Hopefully it's going to be a non-reactive bee sting or a little upset tummy, but sometimes it can be a choking incident, severe bleeding, or an animal actually going unconscious and needing rescue breathing and CPR. So for, I must say, a little over 20 years now, I have been teaching over 25,000 people what to do to rescue Rover or help Fluffy feel better when something goes wrong. And Pet First Aid is by no means a replacement for veterinary care, but what we do at the time that incident or illness rears its ugly head can really make a difference. Our goal is to prevent further injury, hopefully to alleviate some pain, but we still very much might get to the vet clinic very quickly. It's not a substitution for that, but it really can make a difference, and it empowers us to take better care of our pets. Additionally, I do try to open people's eyes, yes, Miss Kiko, to things that you can prevent, in the first place. But life's going to happen. I can't put her in a plastic bubble.
Yeah.
So I want to be prepared when it does.
Absolutely. And anyone who has a pet knows that emergencies usually happen when the vet's offices are closed. Well, that's when most of our emergencies have happened. We have had 2 really big ones, both with Finley. And one we've actually done a video on, and we'll link to that. But it was getting into a package of chewing gum with xylitol in it. And it was half a pack of chewing gum that he ate. And if you don't know, that's very, very deadly.
It is. I mean, it's intended for us humans to get more slowly into our bloodstream, but it can actually plummet their glucose levels and send them into a coma or cause liver problems.
Yeah, and in fact, the emergency vet visit that we went to, we were told one stick could have killed our, 15-pound dog. And so that was one instance. And of course, thankfully, we Googled it, we found out it was really bad, and we took the dogs to the vet to make sure that, they were okay, and by the grace of God, they were.
Oh,
it was
I'm
on a
grateful.
hotline with God on that one.
Yeah.
And then the other one was when Finley choked on a rawhide.
Oh, goodness.
And he was definitely, and we don't feed rawhides any longer because they're so bad and they have the choking hazard.
Gosh knows dogs love them, but,
They do, they do. And he would, even like when he was younger, he was younger when we gave him to him, he would sometimes, if you went to take it from him, he would put it further in his mouth. Yeah. And then you're like, and I got very neurotic about that because I worry about these guys so much anyway.
Of course. They're our kids.
They are. And in our case, they definitely are. So we did not know what we were doing. Did not know what kind of Heimlich sort of maneuver we could do. And I was just trying to find
Scoop out of his mouth.
Yeah. But I think it had gotten lodged horizontally across his throat because I thought I was, when they get wet.
Oh, they're so slippery. I want to say slimy.
Yes.
Nasty.
They are.
Even if you could reach it, it's hard to grab hold.
Yeah, I didn't know if I was touching his mouth, skin, or if it was the rawhide. It ended up, he relaxed, it slid down his throat, he was breathing, we were all good, but, we had to watch for an obstruction. Thankfully, there was none,
Right.
but what's the best way when you're panicked and freaking out in that scenario, as we both were, what's the best way to help your dog?
Well, of course, easier said than done, but try not to panic. Take that deep breath, hug a tree, count to 10. When we panic, we actually have what's called an acute adrenaline syndrome. And an adrenaline dumps into our bodies, and it kind of renders our brains useless and sometimes even our motor skills. So anything we can do to stay calm helps the pet because it accentuates their emotion as well. But first, when they're choking, always give them a moment to cough on their own. Okay. They probably don't understand gravity, but they generally lean over, put their head lower than their stomachs, and they're trying with a cough to propel it out.
Okay.
When you're lucky, they actually do, and then you have to be ready to retrieve that or distract them before they take it again.
Yeah.
But if they're having difficulties, you can take a look inside their mouth if you can do so safely. Some pets, when they're in distress, it's better not to do that, to go on to what I'm going to call the abdominal thrust or the doggy Heimlich maneuver.
And I will say, we did get, you can see I've got scars from the puncture wounds where he's just, he's gagging.
Well,
he didn't mean to.
It's frightening, and that's why I say only if you can do so safely, because it doesn't help your pet if you get injured in the process. The Heimlich or the abdominal thrust is actually quite effective for most breeds, even big and small. And next time you're looking at your pet's chest, notice there's a triangle here where the ribs are attached. Mm-hmm. And at the end of the triangle, there's a soft part of the belly. Mm-hmm. That's basically where you're going to place your fist, or if it's a smaller pet, you might just put 2 fingers on top of each other. Okay. But otherwise, you would put your fist, let me just hold onto her here, and cover with your other hand. Okay. The key, however, though, is she needs to be in her 4 on the floor or even slightly turned down position. Okay. I need to literally come in here, in her case, yes, Missy, I'm just going to straddle you for a moment. I'd put my fist in here, cover, and the big thing is to lean into the dog if it's a big dog. Okay. You don't want to leave any space here because you want to pull against your body. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Honestly, I'm not going to do it on her. If it's a smaller dog, you can still have them up against your chest, but you need to tabletop yourself and do the same thing, because if the pet is upright, you're actually giving a gravity assist for the object to slide farther down.
Okay, so the little dogs also need to have 4 on the floor floor or table or whatever.
Yeah, or or if you just pick them up and put your fingers there and
Okay,
then
and
turn
hold
them
them.
over and pull up against yourself.
Okay, gotcha.
And we typically do that in a series of 5. If it doesn't work, we try 5 again.
Okay.
What you're doing in the Heimlich is you're pressing on the diaphragm to create a force to propel the object out.
Okay.
It really works rather effectively. But if it doesn't, there's a plan B. We always
Okay.
want a plan B, and it's what we call chest thrusts. And on a big dog, you'd put the heel of your hand on both sides of the chest like this, and with your elbows squeeze in 5 times.
Okay.
With a smaller pet, just the flats of 2 or 3 fingers. What we're doing differently in this one, instead of pushing up on the diaphragm, we're actually squeezing the air out of the lungs. And people are sometimes, they're nervous about doing that because in order to do so, you have to press on the rib cage. Dogs do have more flexible ribs than we do. And I'm not teaching you to do something with momentum, Megan,
Right.
like that. You're going to actually start with your hands here.
Okay.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The most important thing is getting that airway back. So, that's imperative. Should the pet go unconscious, you might need to do rescue breathing. So it would be really important to know that step as well. And by doing rescue breathing, it is possible you could get air into the pet's lungs, even if it is a large obstruction back here. In simplest terms, the food tube, the esophagus, and the airway are next to each other. And say she swallowed a tennis ball. That would go down her esophagus and enlarge it because, there's this great big tennis ball. So that would now be pushing the airway closed. Kiko would not have the ability possibly to inhale and breathe,
Yeah.
but when I forcefully blow, I could very often keep that airway open and keep her alive until I get her to veterinary care.
Okay. Gosh, this is another reason I feel like there needs to be a veterinary ambulance service. I'm sure some places have them, but my goodness.
Some do, but it's very limited.
Yeah.
And that's why, as pet parents, I just really try to empower people to get these skills because when you have a dog, you have a furry toddler for life.
Yep.
They're not going to grow up and get smarter and stay out of trouble. They're
Yeah.
going to probably get into even more trouble. So, whatever you can do to feel like you're confident, because you can read a book, but if you're not confident enough to
Yes.
use that information, you're not going to use it when you need it. So
Yeah.
you need to practice skills on stuffed animals before you need to do it on the real one.
Well, and as you were explaining this, I was thinking to myself, get to know your dog too. Feel their body, feel where that little triangle is, feel where the ribs are so that when you get into a scenario like that, okay, this is where I'm going to actually press.
If I can give one tip that I think is more important than almost anything, other than knowing where your emergency center is to weekly or at least every couple of weeks do a head to tail or what I call a woof to wag checkup of your pet, because it gets them used to the human touch. You're looking in their mouth, you can find problems early on and hopefully get them addressed before they become a nightmare. But just by getting them used to you touching them, it'll make life so much more simple if you do need to reach in and get something, if you do need to examine the teeth, if you need to bandage a paw. So it really serves several purposes. It allows you to find a problem early on and get it fixed before it becomes a nightmare, but it makes your dog a better patient at the vet, at the groomer, and even with you.
Yeah, that is so true, especially with puppies and touching their paws a lot, getting them desensitized to that, because you don't want to be wrestling a huge dog to try to clip their nails or something like that.
Oh my goodness, no.
So all of that work that we put in on the front side really pays off.
It does.
Anything else pet safety wise that you would like to share with us and our
Well,
audience?
sure. Just, really getting to know your pet, knowing their habits, how much they drink in a normal day, how often they need to go to the bathroom to eliminate. Because the more you know what's normal for your pet, the more quickly you can determine when something isn't quite right. And to that avail, you should know how to check your pet's vitals. We probably all know how to take our pulse and our respiration and the whole bit, but on our dogs, the best place to actually check their pulse is the femoral artery. think the groin. So she's not, Kiko, will you stand up for a moment? My hands are super cold right now. But you put your fingers at the knee. Well, she's going to sit down. She's embarrassed. Will you stand, please? Thank you. You put your fingers at the knee and just roll them to the inner fleshy part of the thigh.
Okay.
You have to, make sure you've got a finger that you can feel your own pulse on so that you know, but that's where you typically take it on a dog or even a kitty cat. For their respiration, we're just going to watch the rise and fall of the chest. If you were to take your dog's temperature, and a lot of people don't want to do that, but if they're 98.6 like us, they're in a whole heap of a lot of trouble.
Okay.
A dog on average should be 101 degrees Fahrenheit, but a range of about 100.4 to 102.5.
Okay.
So, those are some things you should know. And basically, a good way to test hydration is what we call the Tuger test, where you grab some skin here at the nape of the neck, but with all of her fur, you can't even see it.
Yeah.
And if you have a breed like a Shar-Pei or a Basset Hound, it's really not the best test. So again, it's one of those things you need to get the pet used to your touch, and you would want to come in here and lift the lip, always on the side, and feel the gums. If they're sloppy wet like hers, she's well hydrated.
Okay.
But if they're dry or even sticky, you need to encourage them to drink.
Okay.
Because every system of the body needs water to, function.
Yeah.
And it's really an important thing that you keep your pets well hydrated.
That is really good to know. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Tell us about your the Pet Safety Crusader. Tell us about your business and where people can find you, and can they learn from you, take classes?
I'd be delighted. I'm actually kind of moving to the point where I'm training the trainer now. I'm trying to teach the next generation of pet first aid instructors, but I still do classes. I have recorded ones available on my website, but I do once a month do a live teleconference in these days where we're doing everything on Zoom rather than in person. But it's just really important skills. If you belong to certain national organizations like Professional Pet Sitters and others, you can get continuing education units for taking the class, so it helps with other certifications as well. But all of this information is available at PetSafetyCrusader.com, and I have first aid classes for dogs, for cats, for birds, for rabbits, and also some classes on pet disaster preparedness and caring for senior pets, because that's kind of my specialty. Princess Kiko here, as I like to call her, is kind of a triple threat. And I mean that, unfortunately, in a bad way when she was at the shelter. She's a dark-coated pet, and a lot of people steer away from the darker colored pets. I don't know if they think they look scary, or it's kind of our tradition with the old Westerns. The bad guy wears the black hat, and the good guy wears the white hat. Also, she's a powerful breed that not everybody is prepared to, handle. So that makes her a little bit more difficult. And then she's a senior. So those three things made her what some places would call unadoptable or harder to adopt. But it was love at first sight when my husband and I saw her, and we feel blessed that she's part of our family.
And there is a special place for people like you who rescue senior dogs. We did an interview with Jerome, who has rat terriers, and he rescued a senior dog that was a puppy mill survivor.
Oh, goodness.
And just, and I have a dear friend who, she's like, where's the old dog? I'll take it. And it's just so special because not a lot of people want the old dogs because they're afraid of the commitment, possible medical expenses, and they're afraid they're going to lose them. But how special is it to be able to give them a wonderful life in their golden years? So
it really is. And if I can just put in a shameless plug, but I am president of the Gray Muzzle organization, and what our nonprofit does is we raise money and give it to shelters and rescues around the country to help with senior dog programs. And last year we gave out over $500,000.
Wow.
And it's true what you say, people have these wrong, conceptions about pets. You can have a puppy and there's no guarantee he's going to make it to 12 or 15.
Yep.
You can have a senior dog who may have some problems or who may actually be healthy until she passes away in her sleep. And with a senior dog, what you see is what you get, is what I always say. They're already grown into their paws and their personality. They typically know their manners already. You may need to remind them of their manners from time to time, but it's just such a joy to have an older pet look adoringly at you and be happy to be content just looking adoringly at you.
Exactly. And they're probably not going to need as much of the rigorous exercise. And like you said, the puppy stuff, I mean, Jerome even said that his senior rescue is much easier than it was raising his two from puppyhood.
Oh, so. I believe that. Those midnight feedings, 2 a.m., 4 a.m., out to the door to do their business.
Chewing on everything in sight.
You can hold it very well.
Well, we definitely want everyone to check out the Gray Muzzle organization. What's the website again?
It's greymuzzle, GREYMUZZLE.org.
Awesome. And of course, your Pet Safety Crusader. I think there's a lot of people that can benefit from that, whether they're just a casual pet parent like me, or like you said, if they're like a professional pet sitter. I think that's a great place and a great resource. So thank you so much.
Oh, my pleasure. Like one student once told me a long time ago, don't wish you had taken pet first aid.
I concur. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Those were some great tips. I hope you guys were taking notes. If you are listening to the podcast, I really urge you to go check out this video so you can see where she was talking about to do the chest compressions and then the rib compressions. Really, really valuable information. I think she is a wealth of knowledge, and in this short video gave us some really good tips for, not just the emergency situations, but also the overall maintenance and knowing your dog. I think we really could have done better by the nose to tail sort of review of our dogs, on a weekly or biweekly basis, just to make sure everything is A-okay, especially if you have a breed like we do that's very stoic and doesn't tell you if anything's wrong. Maybe there's something under that toenail that needs help or something.
Yeah, one of the things too that I took away from it is, she talked a lot about the dogs, but she also mentioned something that really stuck with me, and that was how we react in those emergency situations, how we release adrenaline, and we have to be able to think. And so if you've ever been,
pick up on it.
Yeah. If you've ever been in a situation that's an emergency situation, your first fight or flight reaction is just to go, oh my gosh, what are we going to do? You need to breathe through that, I guess. And I thought that point she made was very important. So when this happens, it's easier said than done, but don't freak out. There's probably a technique, and I think, you should check out her website and obviously this video.
Well, don't freak out because your mind can't think as clearly.
Correct.
And I
guess that's where I was going with that.
Yeah. I know from our experiences that, I wasn't thinking clearly, and, it just, you get into a panic, especially with the choking incident, not so much the chewing gum, but yeah. So try to stay calm. That's a tough one.
Yeah.
When you see your dog in distress, that's really hard to do, but it can help you and it can help your dog.
Yeah. It's kind of like, when you're on an airplane, they tell you to put the oxygen mask on yourself before you put it on your kids. There's a reason for that. It's so that you can stabilize your breath and get your mind under control so you can handle the situation. That was something that I took away from this interview, that I was, all the other stuff's so super important, but I was like, oh yeah, I'm a big problem in this situation that I need to fix. So I really enjoyed it. And yeah, you're right. We could have gone on for 8 hours talking to her about that.
Yeah. Yeah. She just is a wealth of knowledge and really good tips. The kind of like the checking their vitals was really important, because we go to a vet that you see them do that. A lot of times they just do stuff and don't tell you, but we see a vet now that will, they're taking the pulse and they're checking the gums for hydration and things like that. But I never knew that before until we started going to a vet that told me that's what they were doing. And so now oh, just swipe your finger across the gums to feel if, it's slick and slimy, then they're getting enough water. So things like that are very important to know. So check in with your dog's vital stats, know their bodies, know what looks normal and what looks abnormal for them. And yeah, just some great stuff that hopefully the emergency stuff you never, ever, ever have to use, but at least you know the process.
And when you are visiting your vet, don't be afraid to ask questions. Ask questions. Say, hey, what are you doing there? Why are you doing this? And then ask what's good care. How do I trim their nails? How do I make sure that their undercoat is taken care of? Things of this nature. Don't feel like you can't ask questions.
Yeah. So, knowledge is power.
Absolutely.
So we hope you guys really got something great out of this episode. If you learned something, please comment below what you learned. If there's anything else that you think we should know, please share that. And we love getting your comments. We love hearing from you guys. So thank you so much for interacting with us. Give this video a like, subscribe to our channel, and click that notifications bell so that you get a reminder whenever we have a new episode. So you can find us everywhere online at Dog Nerd Show. dognerdshow@gmail.com is our email address. So if you would like to be interviewed about your breed or anything dog related, let us know. And you can find our website, dognerdshow.com.
Wow. Now that was a lot of breath.
I kind of took over all the duties just then.
There you go. But until next time, guys, thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.